Now, if you're not familiar with Scale Metal Supplies, they Hey guys, welcome back to Revolution XRC, and welcome to the next part of my Element Utron build series. Now, so far this Element Utron has been fun, but I haven't really done much to it other than swapping out the wheels and tires, as well as adding a Hobby Wing Fusion for the power plant and ESC. Now, I'm really liking the IFS2 setup so far. I've had a lot of fun with it out on the trails, and I definitely see more IFS2 based trucks in the future when they release the kit. Today we're going to look at a few parts that will toughen up your Element Utron, and these are the parts from Scale Metal Supplies. Now, if you're not familiar with Scale Metal Supplies, they mainly supply parts for fabrication. They do have a few bolt-on parts such as these, but most of the parts they have are for fabrication purposes, where you can braze your own parts and you can fabricate your own cages, weld, you name it. But they do have some bolt-on parts, and this is what I have today for the Element Utron. We are looking at the IFS2 gusseted knuckle brace, some rock sliders, and a truss for the rear axle. Alright, so the first thing we'll tackle is probably the easiest one, these sliders right here. Basically, they're just a direct replacement for the sliders that come with the Utron. If you're not familiar with the Utron sliders, these are the ones I believe that the Trail Runner first came with, and basically they capture the body within this little divot right here. So we will lose that body capture, but it might not be a big issue with these sliders. So let's take a look. Alright, I've got the sliders out of the bag, and you can see they're pretty much just straight replacements for the stock sliders. There, it's a bolt-on, and they're really nice. It's up to you if you want to paint them. You can leave them raw material, or you can paint them black or whatever you want to paint them. Of course, you'll have to clean them before you paint them, but right now I'm going to run them as is, and I'll probably paint them later. So let's get to it. You can see how it's a perfect fit. You drop right in. I mean, it really is just a perfect fit in there. And bolted up, they're pretty secure too, so they're not loose at all. Alright, so let's take a look at the sliders. They look great. And you can see how it's longer in the rear, so it actually goes the full length of the side, and it doesn't interfere with the front tires at all. Let's just pop on the body. Let's take a look at it. I have it on the narrowest setting right now. Let's see if I have to widen it a little bit. Let's put the body pins on. I'm actually going to switch these over to magnets in the future. I've already done the front, I just haven't figured out how I want to do the rear yet. So you could definitely run these in their narrow setting and it'll just pinch the body, which in might be okay for you. If you want it to stick out a little bit more, of course you just adjust it and just pull the sliders up a little bit. Now take a look at the length of the slider. So you can see these are a lot longer than the stock ones, so you get more coverage on the side of the Utron body as well. So that's another thing I like about these, is that you get more coverage between the wheel wells. Alright, here's another look at the sliders pulled out a little bit, and as you can see, no issues. The screws grab on pretty well, so they work pretty well. And this is what it looks like. Nice long protection on the sides. Pretty cool piece. Really like it. So overall, these double barrel sliders from Scale Metal Supplies are pretty nice. I will put a link to these in the description below. In fact, I'll put a link to all the parts I showed today in the description below. Okay, the next thing we'll look at is the rear element truss. Right here. And basically this piece is to help strengthen up your rear axle housing. Now if you're crawling, it's usually fine the way it is, unless you're driving really hard, or if you're bashing and jumping the Element Utron and you just plan to put more power and have it jump higher heights, whatever, it may be a good idea to kind of strengthen up this axle so it doesn't snap in this area. Now, the SC editions of the Elements platform did improve the axles a little bit by kind of putting this semi-axle truss extension all the way over to the rest of the axle shaft. Now, if you're really wanting to strengthen this axle housing even further, you can use this Scale Metal Supplies Element Truss right here. And basically, this will brace the top of the pumpkin with the link mounts to kind of give it a little bit more rigidity, so you don't have any fear of snapping the axle tubes right here. Alright, so here are the parts that come with the Element Truss from Scale Metal Supplies. Just pretty much to strengthen your axle housing. And of course, this is only needed in the rear because the Utron is an IFS2 based rig. Alright, let me take these wheels off so it'd be easier for you to see what I'm actually doing. I should probably just take the whole axle off, but nah, don't feel like doing that. Sorry. But this should give you a good enough view of what I'm doing. Alright, so first thing you're going to want to do is to remove. You're going to want to remove the top link screw. Right there. So that top link mount screw is replaced by this screw that comes with the kit. And then you're gonna want to use these screws at the top of the truss. So these would go in right there. This spacer goes behind the truss, in between the truss and the stock truss right there. Let's just go ahead and remove the top link mount screw first. And we'll mount the truss on with the link mount screws first. Alright. So you can see what I did here. I replaced the top screw with the one from the kit and mounted the truss. Now we're going to take this. I mean, it's going to be easier with the axle off, but kind of lazy. Don't want to take it off. Put the spacer in between the old truss and the Scale Metal Supplies truss. I should probably loosen up this a little bit just so I can do that. Just keep in mind this is being difficult for me because I am not taking the axle off the body. I suggest, or I highly suggest, you take the axle off the body if you're gonna install this piece. Or you can just make it hard on yourself like I am. Slide this washer over. Right through. Okay. Got one in. I'll have to put the lock nut on the other side. And tighten this part again. Alright, now I am ready to tighten the washers. Or not washers, lock nuts. Alright, once I'm done. See, that's how it's supposed to be installed. See the lock nut right there, the spacer in between, and the screw. Alright, the camera's in my face and I can't really see. I'll get this threaded on and we'll be right back. Alright, I got the lock nut threaded on and let's go ahead and finish that up. Okay. And here you can see the other side of the truss. You can see how that is all bolted up right there. So this top link mount screw and these two screw and spacer setup from Scale Metal Supplies. And that should strengthen up this axle housing so you won't get any flex here between the axle tubes and the truss. It'll stay pretty rigid. Definitely a nice strengthening piece if you are planning on kind of running this Utron hard or jumping it. If you're going to do any of that stuff, I highly recommend looking into the Scale Metal Supplies Rockalope chassis. It's a chassis that's built to allow the Utron to kind of do like faster running and jumps and just overall rough driving. So on the IFS2, you can see here, this is the steering knuckle for the IFS2. Now if you're running it hard, you're running jumps, there is a possibility of this knuckle attachment here for the steering link to kind of be stressed. So you can see here, it just sticks out from the knuckle, and if you're jumping it all the time, you can see how there's a potential for this to kind of get stressed. And if you want to strengthen that, these Scale Metal Supplies steering knuckle gussets are definitely a nice strengthening piece for this knuckle. Now here you can see what is included with these gussets. two nuts, three nuts, and the gussets themselves. Now, as far as the nuts goes, I'm not sure if I'm going to use these or not, or if you have to use these. I'm going to try to reuse the lock nut that comes with the Utron, and if that doesn't work out, then I will go to these nuts. And if you are going to use these nuts, you will probably need to have thread lock or Loctite. So this should be an easy install. All you have to do is remove the I forgot what these are called, ball joint screws, and put the gusset on and screw them back on. So this one has a nut right here. Alright, my battery ran out, but basically I got one of these undone. Now let's go take care of the other one. So let's try to hold it up so you guys can get a better view here of what I'm doing. Stick a few tires underneath. All right. Alright, so it looks like Scale Metal Supplies provided these nuts because there might not be enough thread for thread lock, or for the lock nut, sorry. But I decided to chance it, and there might just barely be enough thread for the lock nut. I'm going to give it a go. And if it doesn't work out, I'll move to the nuts provided and use thread lock. But I'm going to try this out for now and see how it goes. As long as it doesn't come out, it should be fine. But you can see here that the knuckle is now reinforced between the top of the knuckle and the part where the steering link is supposed to be attached. Let's go ahead and finish screwing that in. Right there. So you can see here how that is reinforced right there. So that should make it a lot stronger and less of a chance of, I guess, flex on impact of the suspension. And overall, pretty nice piece, well thought out. Let's go move on to the other side and do the same tasks. Alright, that pretty much does it for the install of these knuckle gussets from Scale Metal Supplies. You can see that it provides more support for this mounting point of the steering link to the rest of the knuckle. You can see how it strengthens it up, so this thing here can't bend up. I ended up not using the two M3 nuts for securing this screw right here. I chanced it with the lock nut. I felt like there's enough thread to still use the lock nut. If it still does happen to fall out, I'll go ahead and use these and use thread lock. Alright, so I ended up actually using that spacer underneath this screw right here. It does, I forgot that, you know, this part is also raised when you put the gusset on, so it does make sense to keep the spacer on. So I put it back on for both sides, and that just helps keep the steering link parallel with the arms. But that about does it for the upgrades from Scale Metal Supplies. You've got the double barrel sliders right here. You've got the gusset knuckle supports right there, and you've got the axle truss right here. So pretty good stuff from Scale Metal Supplies. So I look forward to continuing working on this Element Utron. Definitely some nice parts you see here. So, you know, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell for future updates on this Element Utron build. Thanks for watching.